right, Dr. Charlie, what's up, my friend?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Been good. It's been too long. We were just talking that I think last time I actually saw you in person was when we were working in the same office at Cone Health Institute in California, and I
Yep.
think a lot has changed for both of us since then. And
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah,
When
yeah,
was that? When did you move to Dominican Republic? 2020?
that was 2021. I left. I
2021.
left that office in May of 21. Yeah.
21. Okay. And then I left that office in March of 22. So I was there a little less than a year after you.
Yeah. And you've since moved to Nashville, Tennessee, Nashville area.
Yeah, we live in Nashville, practice in Franklin. So it's like a 20-minute drive. It's, Franklin's a little suburb of Nashville.
Yeah.
And been here since, March of 22 and been really enjoying ourselves.
Love it, man. Love it. And yeah, I knew it was only a matter of time until you branched off and created your own thing. So that's awesome. And I know a lot of people know your face now because you have created a huge social media presence, which is awesome. And it's grown really fast for you. But for people who don't know you, I'll give you a quick intro so they do get to know you.
Yep.
But Dr. Charlie's a holistic physician. He's trained in chiropractic and Chinese medicine. He offers an eclectic, in-depth approach to patient evaluation and treatment due to his extensive knowledge of natural healthcare techniques and functional medicine research. Like he said, he practices in Franklin, Tennessee, where he works with in-person and virtual patients structurally, chemically, and emotionally to reveal the root causes of their health concerns, along with assisting them in their journey of healing. He does have a website, which we're going to talk about today a little bit, with a membership that doctors and health conscious individuals can join. And there you have access to his wealth of knowledge and experience in helping patients all over the world heal from many common health problems. Dr. Charlie, through his practice and online education, has helped thousands of people worldwide to be the healthiest versions of themselves. So that's a pretty awesome bio there.
Not too shabby, I guess.
No, man, you've done a lot for yourself. That's awesome. That's awesome. So anytime I have people on here who are just experts in the health field and who see a lot of people, and especially with your membership, you have an access to an enormous community of people with all kinds of health issues who you've been able to help. What are some of the most common issues you're seeing people walk through the door with these days?
Honestly, it's been like a lot of wacky symptoms, things that just really don't make sense, where they're kind of a book report. They got 10 different things. And they obviously, I'm sure you've, just like people you see and other guests that you have on your podcast, Western medicine and even some functional medicine people can't make sense of it. And so I would say that's the type of person I see. And I would say the causes that I see the most, environmental pesticide type stuff, EMF stuff, mental stress, all-time high for sure. I think mental stress, which is different than emotional stress. That's one thing that I'll always say is emotional stress is like the way that you perceive what's happening to you, whereas mental stress is your brain doesn't shut down overthinking stuff. And I think that mental stress is at an all-time high for folks that at least I see clinically. Maybe it's my patient population, but it seems like when I talk to people, they're seeing a similar thing. I see, gut dysbiosis all over the place, parasites, fungus, viruses, bacteria. And a lot of that goes down to imbalanced immune system. So I would say a short answer to your question, after I just gave you a long answer, is immune systems that are just imbalanced. And there's not a one size fits all approach. So to say that it's one thing causing that would just be false. And so it's basically, I'd say that my day is helping people balance their immune systems. That's what I would say in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think a huge part of our job is to kind of play detective with the person who's in front of us and figure out, okay, what are your behaviors? What's your lifestyle? What's your environment that's contributing to this? And I'm seeing a lot more parasites and a lot more funky immune system stuff coming up. And people always want to come in and they just want to kill off the parasites. And we have to ask that question: why are you out of balance in the first place?
Yeah.
What are some of the most common things you see that throw people out of balance there immunologically? Like as far as lifestyle,
parasites, definitely one of them. One of the tops is parasites, just because parasites are so smart that they will harbor other toxins. So they will pull in heavy metals and build biofilms. They'll harbor Lyme bacteria. They love to have viruses part of their system. And so that immediately puts your immune system into an imbalance, right? We have two things. We have the Th1 and Th2, which I'm simplifying a very complicated topic. Obviously, there's a lot to immunology, but the bare basics are, it's kind of like a teeter totter, and you want that balance. But if one is completely imbalanced, the other one goes low. And so we live in a society where so much of the toxins, parasites, mold, pesticides, estrogen dominance from all the xenoestrogens in our environment, and our stress levels, definitely higher that Th2, which is an issue because all the other like contagious infections like viruses, bacteria, you need a Th1 to fight that off. So you're imbalancing that, and you are basically you have an immune system that is not adequate because of it's just too high in the Th2 because of what's going on in our environment.
So how much of health problems do you think are are basically self-induced, I would say, for lack of a better word. And when I say self-induced, I'm not putting blame. What I just mean is we do want to get to the root cause, and that's to what level, I guess, are people responsible for what's going on in themselves, and how much of it is completely out of their control?
I'm going to go 50-50. So I'm going to go 50% in their control, and 50% out of their control because of what's going on to our environment with the pesticide spraying. Like they might be spraying pesticides, but they might not be spraying pesticides as well. The 5G towers that are going up everywhere, and it's going to be 6G and 7G, like that's out of our control. But I think that we can have things that will help us 80 to 90% against those things, and you'll still do pretty well. So I would say 50% is, diet, exercise, prayer and meditation, hydration, the basics, getting outside, getting fresh air, going on vacation, like that's stuff that we can control. And that allows us to balance the stress in our lives, which is a massive, massive disruptor of our immune system balance.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't, a lot of people have kind of been conditioned, because that's kind of the message being that comes at them constantly, conditioned that their health is largely outside of their control. And that disease is something that happens to you. It's genetic for the most part. If your parents had it, meaning you had it. What they don't think about is, you and your parents, you eat out of the same trough. It's usually a similar lifestyle stressor, similar environment. So it stands to reason you're going to have similar health problems. But because people don't think they have this control or this level of responsibility where they can make changes and see changes in their health, they turn to the drugs and they turn to the medical procedures. And in my experience, I'm curious your take on this. When people first come into our office, a lot of times we have to play cleanup with the damage that's done to people by the medical system, as far as the drugs that they've taken and the side effects and just how that's wreaked havoc on their system. How much of what you see is kind of cleaning that up before you actually get to the lifestyle and the environment stuff?
Yeah. And you and I were kind of talking about this earlier. I would say that, I've been in practice almost 10 years now, and I saw a lot more of that in the beginning of practice. And now the types of patients that I'm seeing are the ones who are aware of the stuff that we've been talking about, the parasites, the pesticides, the molds and stuff, but they've been very complicated cases, and they've gone to functional med people and haven't had great results. So now these days I'm seeing a very unique set of a population of patients compared to when I got on practice, whereas, people came in and they didn't know that flu shots were not good for them. I think nowadays people know that. I think there's been, I wouldn't say a radical shift. I think that there's still a tipping point that hasn't been reached, and then the radical shift will come. But it's definitely an awareness and an awakening, partially thanks to social media. Honestly, I know Big Brother and social media can be toxic, and I am the first one to say that. But again, it's also a way to get awareness out there. And so I feel like a lot of people have become more aware, but our society's, the toxins are so toxic that, it takes more than just what you read on social media. It takes more than just what Dr. Google says, that natural medicine, yada, yada, yada. And so I don't see as much of that. Now I still see it. Like, don't get me wrong. I've seen people, like I had a patient who comes in from out of town, and for 10 years, they told her she had Addison's disease and put her on cortisol for 10 years, and she didn't have it. So imagine what that does to somebody, and then imagine all the different specialists that person has gone to, and all the nerve pain and all the stuff that I said straight up, like, you've been butchered by Western medicine, and I am going to try my best to help put Humpty Dumpty back together, but I can't guarantee everything. The only thing, and I never guarantee anything to patients ever. I'm never going to say like, yeah, we can fix that for you, because I don't know. All I know is that we can try what I've seen work for many people and have a dialogue with your nervous system through frequency medicine and see what distress signals present themselves and the best way to help your body overcome those. And a lot of times that's a miracle for people, but it's not 100% of the time. I mean, some people have been beaten down so bad that there's only so much you can do to the software if the hardware has been significantly manipulated.
Yeah, and sometimes slow in the progression of the problem is the win, unfortunately. But yeah, it's interesting what you say there, because I came from a chiropractic family. Both my parents chiropractors, mom did functional medicine. And I remember being a kid and we ate clean, we ate organic, we weren't on medications, we weren't getting the shots, and we were weird. Like, and we were seen as like we were that family, what I mean?
Course.
And my mom and dad, when they were educating people on health, it took so much front end education to undo that medical thinking where they thought that the answer was always a drug, the answer was a pill. People wanted to be on their drugs. They were scared or hesitant to come off of their drugs. And I'm in practice now, a couple decades later, and hardly anyone comes in wanting to be on their drugs. And even in the short time that I've been in practice, for me, it's I'm coming up on 8 years here. I've seen a massive shift, and I think COVID had something to do with it. Where people are rejecting in mass the medications. They come in either not on any, or they're on some and they want off. And that's been kind of I saw there were some people who wanted that, maybe 50-50 when I was first in practice. Right. Now it's rare that I have someone come in who actually wants to be on them. And I think a reason for that is people got red pilled pretty hard during COVID when they saw the medical system for what it was.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is, and you said we haven't reached a tipping point. I agree with you there, because I think the problem is we have this mass rejection of the current system and a vacuum where something better to replace it, at least in people's minds, hasn't quite yet stepped in to fill that space.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm glad there's people like you who are actually out there putting your name out, getting big on social media, because I really think that the chiropractic profession and the frequency medicine profession and naturopathy, that's going to fill that vacuum, because to just simply reject the system because it doesn't work without replacing it. That's why we haven't seen a tipping point. That's why we haven't seen a big shift, is because people don't have a ship to jump to. They're not just going to jump into the ocean.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like that's spot on. That is spot on. But it's like you said, like COVID definitely woke people up.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, it just showed you who's going to be your friend and who's not going to be your friend, I guess. But again, if medicine was healthy, then the people who are on the most medications would be the picture of health. And that's just not the case. Anyone who's listening to this knows that if they know somebody who are on multiple medications, I can guarantee you that you look at that person, just know that they're not healthy. They're not the picture of health.
Yeah, I mean, think to the last family gathering you had, where you've got that older relative who brings the Ziploc bag that's like this freaking big and it's full of drugs, and there's like a piece of paper in there that has like a schedule and all of it written on there. Like that's not the healthy person in the room. I mean, that's the sick person in the room. That's the person that has to go home early. That's the person who you're probably gonna have to wake them up a few times. It's the person that like the comfiest chair in the house is reserved for because it's the only one they can sit in because they're in pain, right?
Yeah. But somehow those people are the ones who like try to justify it the most for them. They're like, well, yeah, I mean, that'd be 10, 20 years left of no dairy and gluten. Like, I just wouldn't want to live that life. I'm like, well, I guess it's all perception, because like you are literally not functioning and have no quality of life. And so I guess it's like, do you want quality or quantity? And, I'm a quality person, whereas, people think like, oh yeah, the average lifespan is 80 years old. And compared to 100 years ago, it's went up, but it's like, Yeah, because we've gotten really good at emergency medicine, but that doesn't create quality. That just creates more quantity, and it just drains your pockets at the end of your life because you give all your money, to hospice and all that stuff at the end of your life. So,
Yeah, I mean, we manage disease is what we do. Well, not we, but that's
correct.
what the system is built around, managing disease processes, so they're not quite so bad that that it kills you, but not good enough that you're ever off the medications. And so
Exactly. It's actually a brilliant business model. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
I think you and I have talked about that before. Like, it is brilliant because it's the customer that keeps on giving. It's just always, it's like a drug dealer, literally always on the re-up. That's where you make your money. And so, again, another thing you and I have talked about before, like, my favorite movie of all time is The Matrix 1. It
Dude,
always will be. And like
Yeah.
Morpheus, if people are listening to this, you've never seen Matrix 1, go watch it. It is so far ahead of its time. It's from like 1999, and it's predicting like what is happening in the future, literally. And so Morpheus has one of the best lines in cinema history. He said that people are not willing to be unplugged because they're so hopelessly dependent on the system that they'll fight to protect it. Like, that is pharma, medications in a nutshell. Like, that's what's happening with folks, the people at, your family gathering. They're so hopelessly dependent on it that they don't know anything else besides the fight to protect it. And unfortunately, they subscribe to that system, which, better than anyone, is completely fear-based.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of benefit that comes from being sick. And, one question that I end up asking people who have been on drugs for a long time is, mentally, are you in a place where you're willing to give that stuff up? Because when you think about being sick, I mean, you're treated like a VIP, everywhere you go. Like, you're first in line to board the airplane. You get red carpet service everywhere you go. I mean, you get special tables. You get to park closest to the grocery store. You know what I mean? But there's a lot of benefit that, like, society kind of glorifies it and gives a lot of benefit to illness. And I think one question that's important to ask, and sometimes just asking it is enough to kind of trigger a little bit of a red pill moment for the patient, where it's like, are you willing to give these things up? And then they all of a sudden they realize, oh my gosh, like, I've kind of, like, I really like these things. And when they realize that they're not sure, then that's a big moment for them, where it's like, okay, if there's a part of your subconscious that doesn't want to get better because you have this attachment to these benefits, then you're not going to get better. Because if you're, body follows what mind, the state of mind. It's kind of an NET kind of idea, but
totally.
Yeah. So tell me about your membership, man. I mean, I know one thing, I actually joined your membership, and it just freaking awesome content there, because you're someone who has such a wealth of knowledge on body chemistry and frequency medicine, and you have a membership that's broken down so well into categories of different types of illnesses, conditions, things that people might walk in with, but you actually help them to understand why these things happen, the causes for them. And you give them some direction about what they can do in their own lives without ever having to see a doctor necessarily. It doesn't mean they don't need to be seeing people like us, but you actually give them a really good starting point to actually make some positive changes and start cleaning things up for themselves. So tell me about the membership, and why did you decide to do it?
Yeah. So originally it was because I started generating a wait list, and I'm one person, so there's only so many people I can see. And so my initial thought was, why don't I start a membership where I talk about the things that make most people sick, so that the wait list can have access to the knowledge? Because above all else, knowledge is the most important thing by far. Knowledge is power. And so I was originally going to do that. And so that when I could see them, then they had been exposed to pretty much everything that I'm going to find on them in some fashion. So it makes it much more of an efficient process. And then also, if even if you weren't going to see me, but I gave you a referral to somebody, it made their job easier, because now they don't have to, again, red pill you and go through that whole process. And I've had docs, send me texts and emails saying like, hey, thanks for the referral. It's a breath of fresh air to treat someone who's in your membership, because they've been exposed to it. And it's like, they get it. And it makes the healing journey so much more effective and efficient, and a breath of fresh air, honestly. And so that was the original thought. And then my thought was, okay, well, if I do it for the wait list, why don't I just open it up to anyone who's interested in getting well? And again, like, it doesn't replace seeing somebody. There's nothing more important than having a frequency medicine doc in your corner. It's like a coach and a player. Like, it's an essential piece of healing. And so I never want to say that this replaces that. But if you have someone like that in your corner and you have access to hundreds of hours of videos that of footage that I add each week to, and I continue to do so, then you have such a congruent system that you're in, so to speak. And so I opened it up to the public, and people were really I got great feedback on it. And so people were voting on what they wanted to hear about. So, I touch on, let's see, right now I have 20 deep dive videos, and deep dive videos are like an hour long about. And then I also have Q&As that people submit, and I, do a Zoom call and I answer them and submit it to the membership. And the membership has a search function. So if you're like, hey, I wonder if he talks about Lyme disease or gluten sensitivity or gout or inner ear infection, you can type it in, and every video is transcribed to where it pulls up down to the second in each video that I mentioned it in. And so it acts as a digital library. And so I have about 20 deep dives of things, which I'm adding 2 more. I'm adding dysglycemia this month and Hashimoto's next month. And then I have the Q&As and topic shorts, which are closer to 10 to 25 minutes. And those are things like Alzheimer's. I have gout, pandas, let's see, inner ear infection, like I mentioned, warts, cradle cap, like at-home remedy stuff, and then some other Epstein-Barr virus stuff. And it's just turning into a digital library, essentially, for you to have access to what I have found in the last 10 years of treating people from all over the world that have struggled to get well. And so it's turned into, really, I was telling you before we jumped on here, it turned into a community, which is awesome. And so we have our own private Facebook group where many of the members are in it, and there's people interacting daily. Sometimes there's, 50 different posts a day, and people seeing if anyone lives near each other, if they want to meet up and they want to, get lunch or whatever, because like you said, it's hard because we're the weird ones, right? Because we haven't hit that tipping point. And so now you can connect with people who are also the weird ones. That makes it so much more enjoyable to hang out with people who are on the same lines, especially in health. That's a huge thing. It's very tough when you're around people who are not on that same frequency in health and don't understand it. So that's a big thing with the community. People just jumping on saying, hey, what does Dr. Charlie say about this? Or what have you guys found helped the most with this in your experience? It's turning into something beautiful. And so it's been awesome. It's been really cool.
That's awesome, man. What are the videos or the deep dives that people have been most interested in? Like, what are your biggest hits?
Number one watched video is Parasite video.
Okay, I figured.
That was one of the first videos. So that's like the first 4 or 5 that I posted in there. So it's been going on for 14 months now. That's been the most watched. I've had people say that the most life-changing one was the methylation video and the hormone video series from estrogen dominance, endometriosis, PCOS, fibroids, menopause, fertility. I have 3 different videos that go into all the experience that I've had in those realms that, a lot of the people are females. Obviously, I feel like females are the ones who gravitate towards this the most because males, don't have any issues. At least they want to admit, right? They can just do everything themselves until they can't, and they're forced to come see us. For the most part, I'm generalizing, but there's definitely males who.
That's a trend for sure. That's a trend for sure. Yeah,
definitely. And so those are pretty big for people. The autism video was really eye-opening for a lot of people. The vaccine video.
I love the autism one. Yeah, that one. And what I love about it is, I'm a doctor and I understand it, but people who just watch it who have no medical background on it will understand it.
Yeah.
And I love how you break it down into the immunological piece as well as the inflammatory piece. It's made it super easy to understand, and it's actually given me some really good things to look for with my patients. So that's autism. The autism one is one of my favorites that you did. I like
that's
that
awesome to hear. The goal and just what you said is like, was my original goal of like, how do I take super complicated topics and break them down in an hour or so that are digestible so that you don't have to be a doctor, but at the same time, if you are, you still get clinical pearls from it. And so it's
Yeah.
like fitting that bell curve. And that's like, that was the hardest thing for me to do. And I try my hardest each video to really put that concept into it.
Yeah, you're good. You're good at it. You're really good at it. And I love what you say about, well, one, creating the community, because being kind of a natural health focused person, I mean, that community is so important, because all the decisions you make as you walk through life are really either moving you toward health or toward disease. When you have that type of thinking, the people you surround yourself with, the people who your kids are playing with, the types of restaurants you go to, the way you're spending your time is all either moving you in that direction of health and moving you in that direction of disease. And so being with like-minded people, where it's much easier to do those healthy things is really important.
Totally.
Yeah. And the idea of the membership is great, because you and I, when we work with people, I do a 20-minute visit generally. Yeah. And I think that's what you used to do when we worked together.
I do 30 minutes now, so not too much different.
Okay. So, I mean, that's 20 minutes once every week or 2 weeks, or however frequently you see somebody, versus the hours and hours and hours and days that they're spending everywhere else. Having some kind of guideline, how do you live, when you're outside of the office is totally hugely helpful. And then, of course, seeing people like you, seeing people like me, what I love about what we do, because there's no one size fits all with patients. There's no, hey, if you have this problem, take this supplement or this herb. We'll have 10 people come in with the same type of parasite, and they each need a different herb, or they each need a different protocol. There's no two people need the same thing. And what I love about what you do and what I do is we use that frequency medicine, or the word language I use is binary biofeedback. We're sort of tapping into the body's yes/no response system and letting the infinitely intelligent human body direct us. And that's what I love about it is we don't come in with the answers. We come in knowing how to ask the right questions, and the patient's body is what gives the response and kind of directs where we go and what the person needs. And I think that's what allows us to be way more effective than than typical people. I don't know what your thought is on that, but that's just kind of where my mind went.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And that was another, back to the membership, that was another kind of roadblock for me. Was I know that not everyone needs the same stuff, but I can give the knowledge, and then I can give here's what helps most people that I've seen, without it being like, like this is the only thing you need, or this is going to fix everything for you. Like, hey, look, this is what I have found most people to help. I can't muscle test you specifically, and I can't do that. So I had to kind of get over that, because I know that's not going to be the right supplement for everybody. But at the same time, if I can, get 80% of people feeling better, then I've done my job, because this isn't like a vaccine. If you take an herb and it's not the right one for you, if you stop taking the herb, you're going to be fine. It's not going to stay in your nervous tissue and things like that. And so I agree with you how it's like, not everyone is the same. And so that's what I've tried to do with the membership is like, here's what I've found to be some really good herbs for people. So here's an educated guess on if you struggle with this a lot, like this is something I would try, but I would also really try to find someone in your area doing what we're doing to have that coach in your corner on top of also having this knowledge.
Yeah, it's a really good kind of a trial and error system you put together where they can safely try things out, and you give them the framework to know whether or not it's helping them or not. And if it doesn't, you have to teach people how to think, and you're doing that really well.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. There was something that kind of came to my mind before I hopped on with you, because I was thinking about you, and I was thinking about some of the other people who I've interviewed. I'm like, what do these people have in common? Because there's like,
I can't wait to hear what you say after this.
What's that? Well,
I can't wait to hear what you say after this.
Well, oh gosh. Well, I mean, I think about you. I think about when I think of amazing healers. You're on the top of the list. George Gonzalez, he's a guy who's on the top of the list. Quantum neurology. Howie Cohn, top of the list for me. Ted Corin. So there's a number of people, and I'm curious what makes a great healer, because it's like, what do you know how to look for if you're a patient? And I came up with 3 qualities that I want to run by you and see what your thoughts are.
Okay, yeah, my as you said that, my head's like spinning. I'm trying to like think of things. I'm interested to see what you say.
Okay. So for me, it came down to three. Three,
Okay.
like where I see this in everybody who is very, very good.
Okay.
One is an insatiable curiosity.
Yes.
That's number one.
Yep.
Number two is usually there's some kind of personal experience of life-changing healing, either in themselves or their families through the type of work they do.
Yep.
And the third one, and you fit this mold probably better than just about anybody I know, is this just radical comfort in your own skin where you just don't give a crap whether people like you or not.
Yeah.
You know, because to be a good healer, you have to do something different. You know, you got to go against the grain, and when you go against the grain, you get the haters come out of the woodwork. You have a lot of people with opinions who they have them and they want to tell you, and and so it takes that comfort in your own skin to be 100% okay with being different, 100% okay with people not being happy with what you're doing, 100% okay with all of that. And so I'm curious about like where does this just radical comfort in your own skin come from? Because you've had that the entire time I've known you, where it's like you just don't care.
Yeah,
and it's one of my favorite things about you.
Well, for the same reason that it's your favorite thing about me, one of them, the other people can't stand it about me, right? I don't know. I think just my personality, honestly. You know, if I truly believe in something and I know it brings value to people, I'm going to shout it from the rooftops. And you can say whatever you want about me. It's not going to navigate me away from my purpose of getting this stuff out to people. And at the end of the day, I think that is what really drives that. You know, I say like you have to have the skin of an armadillo, like super thick.
Yeah.
I think that's number one. It's just like, you know, I listen to Jim Rohn all the time. Are you familiar with Jim Rohn?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. It's his name, Jim Rohn, Rohn.
Okay.
Actually going to a 7.2 training that Howie had brought me to. One of the people who was speaking there talked about his mentors, and I really liked what this guy was talking about. And he said Jim Rohn was his biggest mentor. So he's more in the personal development space, like financial independence, personal development space. And he always says, he goes like, when the picture of the future is clear, the price to pay will be worth it. And so I think that is, you know, the future that I picture is that all of the medicine that we do is in every household across the world. And until that is done, I will not stop shouting from the rooftops. And no matter what people say, I will always be myself and be genuine to it and authentic to it, and just keep saying what I think people should hear. And that saying comes to my mind because I think that's what gives me that, like, I really don't care. If you hate me, that's great. Love me, that's awesome. Like, be part of the community. It's, you know, be part of the movement, so to speak. And if you're not with it, that's fine, but just get out of the way because the movement's going.
Yeah, I love that, man. And and I think it gets easier the further you get in practice, because when you're first there, you're you know, you're principled, you're educated, but you don't really have the experience to kind of back up that belief.
Correct.
And I mean, now, man, we got the receipts. You know what I mean? It's like we got hundreds, we got thousands of people who we've helped. Like, I don't really care what you say. You can't take that from me.
That's right.
And yeah, and it only gets better from there.
Yeah, and I've had you know, the state of Tennessee, the chiropractic board of Tennessee, send me letters in the mail saying that people are complaining about me spreading false information and they can take my license away. And it's like, okay, then take my license away. Like, that's not going to change what I'm going to do. You know, I can become a health coach and do the same stuff and keep saying the same stuff. And so it's I don't know, you know, I just feel like it's just part of my being. I don't know how else to say it, you know?
Yeah. Well, we need more people like that, man. And that's a quality that I appreciate about you big time and have since I met you, man. I want to wrap up, man. Anyway, I appreciate you taking the time for this. I know you're busy. I know you put out a ton of content. I know you've got a hugely busy practice. And then of course you're making time to be a dad and a husband and drive your sweet car around all the time. I see the posts about
Yeah, I am. The car community in Nashville is awesome with a lot of good people. So that's something I'll talk about as we end off. I know the question that you ask everybody before we get off. it kind of fills into that.
Okay. Well, dude, I tell you what, I give everybody the last word before I finish up. So take it, man.
Yeah. So you and I have done podcasts before, right? We did one on vaccines back in 2020.
That one didn't get taken down, surprisingly.
I know it didn't get taken down somehow. You and I have done another podcast. I can't remember what the topic. I think it was like muscle testing or maybe along those lines. But you always ask off of like, okay, what do people need to hear?
Yeah.
And in the past, I've always thought of, kind of the cliche, but it still holds a lot of weight of that there's a better way to your health and that it's never too late to do those action steps to better yourself in some way, shape, or form with your health, which stands true always. But one of the things that I've noticed is that the people who do the best are the ones who have hobbies and things that really fill them with joy. And we can stress out about the gluten and the pesticides and the EMF and all that stuff, but that stuff's going to happen anyways. And so the more that you can take time to stuff that brings you joy, and I know that, everyone's first thought's going to go to spending time with kids and family time. And I totally agree with that, but that's life. That's not a hobby. Mm-hmm. And to do something that gets you away from all aspects of life to truly recharge you in that moment, I think is so important. And for me, after what we do, frequency medicine and functional medicine, chiropractic, engineering and cars is by far my go-to. Like cars have always been something that have grounded me, that when I'm researching stuff, for medical stuff and I'm in the trenches treating patients and learning, I'm also researching about cars and on YouTube watching all these car reviews. For years, I've done this. And so I have become part of a local car club where we meet up on Saturdays and we, this Saturday we go for a drive, we get lunch. We're doing Toys for Tots this Sunday. And all these people from all different walks of life just share one thing in common, that they freaking love cars. And when I go there, every time I go there, every time I come home, my wife is always like, man, I'm happy you went there because you are so filled up with joy after those. And then the saying is you can't give what you don't have. And so now I feel like that recharges me to give better membership videos, to give better treatments, to give better to my kids being a father, to be a better husband. And I don't think people embrace their hobbies that they truly enjoy enough, because it's, everyone's two blocks are money and time. And time is man-made. Like time is what you make, essentially. And so the one thing I will encourage people to do who are listening to this is do your hobbies, make time for your hobbies, and get away from being so stressed out about what in society is breaking us down, and rather do stuff that builds us back up.
Dr. Charlie, thank you, brother. Beautifully said. For people who want to reach out to you, I've got your website going across the bottom, but how can people get in touch with you, follow you, join your membership? What's the best way?
Yeah. So my account is drcharlie DC _2.0, because the original account was shadow banned for talking vaccines. And then the membership, you will be exposed to that because I talk about it all the time. It's in my bio link and stuff. But again, see the content, see what you like. The membership again is essentially $10 a week, cancel anytime. So $40 a month, and you get access to pretty much all of my knowledge that I've accumulated over the last 10 years. And so, and then when you do that, request to join the Facebook group, be a part of the community. I am doing the first in-person event the first weekend of October 2024 in Nashville, called Trenches Nashville, at the Gaylord Opry, a really nice resort around here, where we'll have speakers and trying to get a bunch of people there to meet people in person and create something like a Cal Jam that's more geared towards lay people more than doctors, more of that thing that goes every year in Nashville and becomes something really special. So that's how you can find me. And then maybe on some more podcasts with Dr. Casey.
Dude, you're welcome back anytime. Open door for you, my friend.
I love it. It's always great to get on here and talk with you. I always tell people when, we were talking about a local doc to you who you've been networking with. And whenever someone asks me, do you know Dr. Casey? I say, yeah, he's one of the best human beings you'll ever meet. I don't have to do it justice. Just go meet him. And you'll get real quick how, again, I preach integrity, authenticity, genuineness and a good human being is the best qualities of somebody. And you are that, like, to a T. So you are the perfect example of what the world needs more of.
Well, it means the world to hear that from you, brother. So with that, that's a perfect note to end it on, I think, man.
All right, man.
So yeah, so everybody, appreciate you, and we'll see you next